dare enter, a place forgotten by time, where shadows breathe, and the dead still remember. Sit, watch, and do not look away.
They told me the abbey was abandoned. A crumbling relic tucked into the forest near a forgotten road in rural Vermont, left to rot after a fire gutted half its western wing in 1911. The stone bones still stood, barely, wrapped in ivy and silence. No services, no tourists, just stories. But I wasn't here for prayers. I was here for the bell tower. Black Hollow Abbey had one of the last standing medieval bell towers in New England. 37 meters tall, stone spiral stairs with no railings, and a bell said to have rung once, and only once, in the last 100 years. The day Sister Agnes died. They never found her body, just her rosary, dangling from the tower's edge, still warm, according to the police report, as if it had just slipped from her hand. That was 1963. No one had been up there since. The path to the abbey was overgrown. Moss-covered stones, brittle branches snapping underfoot. I hiked 2 hours from the nearest road. Phone signal long dead. The forest seemed quieter the closer I got. Not peaceful, just held breath. Like even the animals avoided the place. When the abbey came into view, it loomed. 4 stories of stone cloaked in shadow, half the roof gone, windows like black sockets staring back at me. The bell tower rose above it all, narrow and cracked, like a finger pointing to a sky that had long since stopped listening. I should have turned back. Instead, I stepped inside. The air was cold. Not the kind of cold that comes from weather, but something else. Like the temperature dropped in respect. The nave was empty, pews long gone, altar reduced to a splintered frame. Graffiti covered most of the walls, names, crude symbols, broken Latin. But the floor was untouched. No debris, no moss, just dust. One set of footprints led forward. Fresh. I followed them through the nave and up a narrow hallway toward the base of the tower. A rusted iron door stood ajar, hinges twisted like something had forced it open from the inside. Beyond it, stairs. Stone. Spiraling. No railing. The kind you take if you don't mind never coming back down. I hesitated. And then I heard it. A chime. Far above. Clear and soft, like a single note plucked from a music box left too long in the dark. The bell. It had rung again. And I was no longer alone. I stood at the base of the tower, heart hammering. The bell shouldn't have rung. There was no rope. No working mechanism. According to every article I read, it had been fused in place decades ago by rust and rot. Just a relic now. Dead metal. But I heard it. Soft. Single. A call. I pulled out my flashlight. Its beam caught the dust spiraling upward into the darkness, dancing like ash in the air. The steps stretched above me, narrow and slick with damp stone. Something had passed this way recently. The footprints I'd followed in the nave were here too. Deeper now. Like whoever made them had started walking slower. Or heavier. I started climbing. Each step creaked with age beneath my boots. The air tightened as I ascended, damper, colder. I counted the turns to distract myself. 13. 14. 15. A whisper. Not below. Not above. Right next to me. I whipped around, flashlight darting along the curve of the stairwell. Nothing. Just stone. But the voice had been close. Inches. A woman's voice. Or what was left of one. Don't go higher. I froze. Waited. But the silence returned like a lid dropping back onto the world. Still, I climbed. The landing came without warning. A wooden trapdoor, half splintered, marked the final step. I pushed it open slowly. The hinges groaned, long and loud. The belfry was circular. Rotten wood flooring surrounded the massive iron bell, suspended from rusted beams that trembled gently with the wind. And something else. A shape in the corner. Kneeling. Still. Draped in black. I thought it was a statue at first, until it moved. Its head turned, slowly, impossibly smooth. A veil hid its face. Hands rested on its lap, motionless and gray. I took one step forward. The boards beneath me groaned. The figure didn't flinch. Another step. I raised the flashlight. The bell rang again. Louder this time. Right above me. The sound passed through my chest like thunder made of bone. And when I looked back down, the figure was gone. Only the imprint of its knees remained in the dust. But across the wooden floor, on the far side of the tower, a trail. 2 long drag marks, like someone being pulled by the ankles. Straight toward the edge. I ran. Not because I was brave. Because something inside me whispered, "If you don't look now, you'll never understand what followed you home." I reached the edge. Looked down. And froze. Carved into the stone just below the railing, barely visible beneath moss and thyme. A name. Agnes. And below it, a single word scratched violently into the stone, again and again and again. Stay. I backed away from the edge, breath ragged. Stay. The word repeated itself inside my head like an echo trapped in stone. Not shouted. Not spoken. Carved. Commanded. I turned to the center of the belfry. The bell loomed above me like a coffin, waiting to drop. Wind whipped through the broken slats in the tower walls, and for a moment I thought I saw movement in the dust again. The swirl of fabric, the hint of a face behind a veil. I forced myself back down the stairs 2 at a time. My hand gripped the railing until my knuckles ached. When I reached the nave again, I paused in the doorway, panting. The air had changed. Thicker now, as if the church was holding its breath. The candle I'd lit earlier, the one on the altar, was out. But wax still dripped from its side. Someone had snuffed it minutes ago. Not wind. Not time. Someone. My flashlight flickered. Then went out. I slapped it. Nothing. Darkness closed in, that pure old kind of dark, where even memory feels too loud. I turned toward the exit. And froze. A figure stood between the pews. Not kneeling. Standing. Veiled. Same height. Same black folds of cloth. But this time, she was looking at me. I couldn't see eyes. But I felt them. Like nails pressing into my thoughts. I stepped backward. She followed. Silent. Gliding. The way shadows move in nightmares, smooth, soundless, certain. I turned and ran. Down the hall. Through the vestibule. My boots slapped against the cold stone. I didn't look back. Couldn't. I burst through the front doors of the Abbey. And stopped dead. The car was gone. My car. Gone. Just empty gravel. The trees pressed in at the edge of the clearing, thicker than before. The trail I'd driven in on, erased. As if the woods had swallowed it during my visit. And the bell rang again. A third time. Low. Final. Like the closing of a door behind me. I spun back toward the Abbey. But the door. Shut. Sealed. No sound. No slam. Just closed. I didn't try to open it. I already knew it wouldn't budge. I didn't go back to the church. Not right away. Instead, I walked the perimeter, scanning the woods, the gravel, the sky, looking for something that made sense. The silence out here wasn't natural. It wasn't just the absence of sound. It was suppression. The kind of silence that pushed back when you breathed too loud. The kind that listened. Half a mile into the trees, I found what used to be a path. Overgrown, thorny, barely more than a depression in the earth, like something had been dragged through it long ago. I followed it. Because what else could I do? Branches clawed my jacket. Brambles sliced my jeans. But the cold was worse, thick, wet cold that felt like it crawled into your skin and stayed. After what felt like an hour, I saw something ahead. Stone. A marker. Old. Crooked. A grave? No. A warning. Because beside it, rising from the dirt like the tip of a finger, was a bell. Not upright. Not mounted. Just lying there, rusted and broken, half buried in mud. I approached slowly. And that's when I noticed the carvings. Inside the bell. Not outside. Inside. Etched into the metal in long looping spirals, symbols, shapes, names. So many names. Dozens. Hundreds. Scratched in with something sharp. I leaned in. And that's when I saw mine. My full name. Etched near the bottom. Fresh. Not rusted like the others. No. like someone had carved it today. Like they were still here. Watching. Waiting. The wind picked up behind me, but it wasn't wind. It breathed. I turned. The trees had closed. The trail behind me? Gone. Just wall-to-wall black pine and thorn. No sky. No stars. Just branches above me like fingers locked tight. I ran. Blindly. Didn't matter where. Didn't matter if there was even a way out. I just ran. Until I saw the church again. Rising from the woods like a black tooth. And the door was open. Not wide. Just enough. Like an invitation. Like a dare. And inside, candlelight. Flickering. No. I stepped in. Slowly. The main hall was empty. No figure. No veil. No sound. But the air. Different. Wetter. Heavier. Like something had started breathing through the walls themselves. I walked down the aisle. Back toward the altar. The candle was lit again. No matches nearby. No lighter. Just the flame. Steady. Waiting. And behind it, a book. Old. Open. Its pages blank. Except for one line. In ink that bled through the page. Write your confession. I didn't want to touch it. That book. But something about the ink, how it shimmered like wet blood under the candlelight, held me still. Write your confession. Not a request. Not a suggestion. A command. The pen was already there. Resting across the open page like it had been waiting for years. I reached out, hesitated, and picked it up. The metal was cold. Too cold. Like touching bone that hadn't thawed in centuries. I didn't write. Not yet. Instead, I flipped through the other pages. Blank. All of them. No dates. No names. No ink. Just that one line on the first page. As if nothing else mattered. I felt the weight of the pen in my hand. Felt the silence pressing against my ears. And I wrote. Not much. Just a sentence. Something true. Something I hadn't said out loud in years. I let her die. The ink bled before I finished the last word. Spreading through the paper like veins. And then the candle blew out. On its own. I stood in the dark. Frozen. Holding the pen. And then, behind me, the bell. Not above. Not in the tower. but inside the church. Deep. Below the floor. It rang once. Loud. Low. Like a heartbeat carved from iron. And I swear, the church exhaled. Dust fell from the rafters. Boards groaned, and the book snapped shut. On its own. I backed away from the altar. But I didn't make it far. Because the pews, they were full now. Filled with shapes. People. Maybe. But not alive. Not really. Each one wore a veil. Each one stared forward. Unmoving. And in their laps, books, the same as mine, clutched in skeletal fingers. All closed. All bleeding black ink down their sleeves. I stumbled backward. My heel caught the step. I fell hard, cracked my elbow on the stone, but didn't stop moving. Crawled toward the door. But when I looked up, it was gone. Just wall. Stone. Like it had never been there. Then the bells rang again. Twice. 3 times. Each toll louder than the last. Each one shaking the world a little more. And above me, something moved. In the rafters. In the shadows. Something that didn't belong to anything human. I didn't scream. Didn't breathe. I just pressed my back against the wall and stared as the figure stepped down from the pulpit. Tall. Veiled. Hands too long. Too thin. Its face hidden. Its step silent. But in its hand, the book. Mine. Open. Dripping. It held it out. And I saw my words, but written over and over, in a spiral, looping endlessly around the page. I let her die. I let her die. I let her die. And in the center of the spiral, a name. Not mine. Not hers. Something older. Something wrong. And as I stared at it, the bell rang one final time. And I remembered everything. Her name was Margaret. I hadn't thought of her in years. Not really. Not clearly. But the second I saw it, etched in the center of that spiral of ink, every wall I'd built cracked. Margaret. Not my sister. Not my friend. Not exactly. Something more. Something deeper. She was the first person I'd ever see scream without making a sound. We were children. 12, maybe 13. Sneaking through the ruins behind the village, Black Hollow Abbey, they called it. Long since abandoned. Even then, it felt cursed. The tower had fallen once. Half of it, anyway. But the bell still hung, suspended in midair by rust and bone. They said the monks fled in the winter of 1843. Said one of them never left. The bell ringer. The one who heard things at night. Things that whispered from the stone. Margaret didn't believe in ghosts. She believed in dares. And that afternoon, she dared me to follow her to the top. To ring it, she said. To prove we weren't cowards. We climbed the old staircase. Rotted wood. Missing steps. A single misstep from a broken neck. But we made it. Laughing. Panting. And there it was. The bell. Massive. Split down the side. Hung crooked on a half-rotten beam. And below it, scratched into the floor, a spiral. Even then, it was there. I should have seen it. She stepped closer. "Dare you?" she whispered. I said no. Said we'd done enough. Said we should go. But she just smiled, reached out, and touched the rope. The second her fingers closed around it, the wind died. Everything died. The light. The warmth. The world. And then, the bell rang. Once. Twice. And I saw something move inside it. Not a clapper. Not a bird. Something with eyes. Watching her. Watching me. Waiting. She turned to run. But the floor gave way. Wood shattered. And she fell. All the way down. I heard her scream. Once. Then silence. I ran. Didn't go back. Didn't tell. Just said she'd wandered off. Got lost. Like so many others before. They searched the Abbey for days. Never found her. Only her shoe. Red. Torn at the heel. And now I knew what I had done. Not just left her. I'd opened the door. The figure stepped closer, the book in hand. Its veil lifted slightly. And beneath it, her face. But not as I remembered. Twisted. Pale. Eyes missing. Mouth sewn shut. And still smiling. She raised a single hand. And pointed behind me. I turned. And the wall was gone. The door had returned. But it was open. And behind it, stairs. Upward. Into the tower. The bell began to toll. Again. And again. And again. Each chime pulling something from me. Memory. Voice. Guilt. I stepped toward the stairs. And she whispered, not with her mouth, but with mine. Come ring the bell. The stairs were wrong. Too steep. Too narrow. They turned at angles that didn't belong in a building made by human hands. And as I climbed, the walls pulsed. Not physically, but in my mind. Like the abbey itself was alive, and I was walking up its throat. The bell kept ringing. And with each toll, the light dimmed. With each toll, I remembered less of who I was before I came. My name felt distant, like it belonged to someone else. Someone who hadn't left Margaret behind. Someone who hadn't opened the door. At the halfway point, I found the bones. Small. Curled. Still wearing a red shoe. Still waiting. They were arranged neatly on a patch of stone. No dust. No rot. Like she'd only just laid down. There was something clutched in her hand. A note. Crumpled. Blackened. I pried it loose. 4 words scratched deep into the paper. Don't let it ring. The bell tolled again. The sound passed through me like a knife through silk. And suddenly, I saw her again. Not as a child, not as a corpse, but as something else. Tall. Pale. Her limbs too long. Her smile too wide. Eyes stitched shut with thorns. She stood on the next landing, head tilted, veil gone. The same face I saw in the spiral. The same girl I let fall. But now she was part of the Abbey. Or maybe the Abbey was part of her. And she spoke with 100 voices. All mine. All you had to do was hold my hand. She reached for me, and behind her, the bell began to swing. I ran. Pushed past the hallucination, the memory, the curse, and climbed the rest of the stairs 2 at a time. The tower's top opened like a wound in the sky. And there it was. The bell. Massive. Cracked. Alive. It pulsed with light that wasn't light, color that wasn't color. And hanging beneath it, holding the rope in both hands, was a figure. Not Margaret. Not me. A thing wearing both. And it smiled. Say my name, it whispered. The rope twitched. The bell began to move. I pulled the knife from my boot. One last memory I hadn't lost. One last weapon I hadn't dropped. And I charged. The thing turned its head as I ran, slow and fluid, like a hinge too long unused. Its smile widened. The bell swung higher. And the sound, it wasn't sound anymore. It was pressure. It was memory unraveling. My legs moved, but I couldn't feel them. Couldn't feel anything except the pull, like the bell wasn't just calling something down from the sky. It was calling something up from me. I leapt, hit the figure hard. We crashed to the stone, the knife slicing across its shoulder as we landed. It didn't bleed. It didn't scream. It just grinned, mouth splitting too wide, and said in my voice, "You ran." I stabbed it again. This time in the chest. Again. And again. The thing convulsed, shuddering in waves like it was caught in a strobe. Its skin peeled. Its eyes boiled. And beneath it, something else began to rise. From the cracks in the stone floor. Black vines. Made of hair. Of teeth. Of laughter. They wrapped around the figure and pulled. Not down. Inward. Like the abbey was eating its own echo. The bell tolled once more. Louder than anything I've ever heard. A wave of darkness rolled through me. And in that moment, I remembered everything. The fall. The scream. Margaret's hand slipping from mine. The smell of her hair when we hid beneath the blankets as kids. The sound of her laugh. And the silence after it was gone. The tower cracked. Splintered. Stone rained from above. I crawled to the bell rope, severed it with the knife, and the bell let out a final groan. Then stopped. Just like that. The air changed. The pressure broke. The vines shrieked. The thing on the floor tried to speak. But now it had my face. And no mouth. I watched it dissolve. Piece by piece. Ash in the wind. Outside, the sky had changed. Not brighter, but real. The abbey exhaled. The spell broken. The dead let go. And far below, in the mist, a single red shoe. Left at the edge of the forest path. Waiting. I didn't go back for the others. I didn't go back for my things. I just walked. Through fog. Through silence. Until the abbey vanished behind me like a bad memory that never really fades, just burrows deeper. The forest didn't whisper anymore. The trees didn't lean. The path wound out of the hollow like it had never been broken. Like it had just waited. For someone to come out. Alive. By noon, I reached the edge of town. Or what was left of it. The streets were empty. The windows shattered. The signs rusted and blank. But in the center of Main Street, one thing remained. The bell. Not the one from the tower. A different one. Smaller. Older. Mounted on a crooked post outside the sheriff's office. I stepped closer. A plaque beneath it read, "In memory of the fallen. And below that, you heard the call. Now you know why. I didn't touch it. Didn't dare. But for a second, I thought I saw someone inside the reflection. A girl. Hair braided. Eyes like mine. Then she was gone. Just my face again. Older. Tired. But still me. Still here. I left town that afternoon. Didn't tell anyone. Didn't leave a note. Didn't need to. Black Hollow didn't need another story. It already had too many. And now it had one more. They say the Abbey's ruins collapsed in the storm. They say there was no tower. No bell. Just another ghost town. Forgotten by time. But I know better. Because sometimes, when the wind is just right, I still hear it. Far off. Deep in the trees. A low, steady toll. Calling out for someone who remembers. Someone who saw. Someone who got away. Almost. And in dreams. She's there. Margaret. Standing at the base of the bell. Eyes hollow. Mouth closed. Reaching. Waiting. But I don't answer. Not anymore. Because I know the truth. The bell doesn't ring for the dead. It rings for the next one. The end.
The tale is over, but the darkness remains. Subscribe, or stay forever, in the silence between screams.